In today's lesson, we're diving into something that could completely change how connected you feel in the UK and with British people. So, today I'm going to share 16 expressions that will help you make friends in the UK. And these are expressions that I've actually heard English learners use that instantly made me smile and removed any barriers. Because here's the truth, it's not just what you say in English that matters, it's how you say it and the tiny cultural codes hidden inside those everyday expressions. Today, you're not just learning textbook English, you're learning the real language that we use to connect, laugh, and to make friends. And to learn even more about this lesson, there is a free PDF that you can download with far more information. You can get that down below in the description. Hello, you wonderful people. Welcome to English Right Now. My name is Roy, your British English teacher, and I've been a teacher of English for nearly 15 years. And during that time, I've helped thousands of students just like you, thousands of learners on their journey towards mastering things like a modern British RP accent, British English, and of course, British culture, understanding British culture. Now, I've worked at some of the most prestigious schools in London, in Cambridge. I've worked for BBC Learning English, and I've had the pleasure of meeting so many people from all around the world. And sometimes I hear an expression that is so natural that it just makes me smile. And that is what we're talking about in this lesson. 16 expressions that are going to make a British person feel more connected. And remember, there is a free PDF that you can download for free down in the description below. But let me tell you why I've chosen these 16 phrases on this list. Of course, you probably know already that 16 is my lucky number, but the 16 phrases, why I've chosen them, well, I've worked with lots of people from many other cultures. It's something that I love about my job as a teacher, meeting new people with fascinating stories and backgrounds. But before I became a teacher, I also had the pleasure of working with people from all over the world. People of all different levels of English speaking with me, pre-int, intermediate, all the way up to fluent, and many of them spoke textbook English, which was fine, but it wasn't exactly natural English, and it wasn't as relaxing for me sometimes. It made me almost start speaking textbook English as well, but occasionally someone would just crack out a really natural British expression that would surprise me. It would kind of it would make me smile and it would disarm me in the sense it removed any barriers. These expressions helped us connect and they made me feel warmer towards them instantly. And they can help you to do the same no matter your level of English. I believe Nelson Mandela once said, if you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his language, that goes to his heart. Now, I always say that language is more than words, it's culture. Talk to me in textbook English, yeah, it goes to my head, I understand. But use those real British expressions, then they do instantly go to my heart. Now, remember, there is that free PDF that you can download to learn even more about this lesson. But now, let's talk about those 16 expressions that can instantly make me smile. Number 1, fancy a cuppa. Fancy a cuppa is basically inviting somebody to have a cup of tea. But it's more than that. It's a really kind of gentle way to open communication, to say, let's have a conversation, let's connect. A cup of tea is obviously something incredibly British, but it's more than that. It's home for me. Now, I've always said that when I lived in Brazil with my wife, that one thing I missed was a cup of tea, but not just a cup of tea, it was the feeling around it. And when I arrived home in the UK and I went to my parents' house, the first thing my dad would say after, oh, you're right, nice to see you, fancy a cuppa. And it made me instantly feel like I was at home. It's fancy a cuppa. Obviously, fancy means desire. Cuppa means cup of tea. It's let's connect. Let's start this cultural connection. If somebody arrives at your home and you want to instantly start that connection, you could also say, I'll stick the kettle on, which basically means I will put the kettle on. We're having a cup of tea. Let's connect. Number 2, I wouldn't say no. This is a charming way to accept an offer without sounding too greedy. So it's kind of like a really British way of going, it's an indirect acceptance. It's modest, it's friendly, and it's classically British. So, with your cup of tea, if somebody says, "Ooh, would you like another biscuit?" Ooh, I wouldn't say no. Number 3, not my finest hour. I've said this a lot. It's brilliant. It's a self-deprecating way to admit a small mistake or embarrassment. Oh, I spilt coffee on my boss this morning. Not my finest hour. It's really, as they say, self-deprecating. And in Britain, we love self-deprecation. Self-deprecation creates instant reliability and connection in Britain. It kind of disarms pride, but it also shows that you don't think you're better than me, and you realize you can also make mistakes. Self-deprecation really does help British connection. Next up, we have could be worse. This is a humorous way to stay positive, even in a bad situation, although the expression itself does sound quite negative. It depends on the way it's used. Oh, it's pouring and the train's cancelled. Oh well, could be worse. It's like British optimism, but it's rarely loud. It's kind of more like quiet resilience. It's like, well, this situation is pretty bad, but I suppose it could be worse. And in that sense, the British optimism sounds a bit pessimistic. Now, as well, sometimes if you ask a British person, how are you? They may also say, could be worse. That's pretty negative. It's saying, my life isn't great, but I accept there are worse levels that my life could go to. But again, could be worse is a humorous way to stay positive, even in a terrible situation. Bit of an acquired taste is usually something we say when we don't like something. Now, literally, it sounds like we're talking about something we didn't like at first, but we might appreciate later, and that's possible as well. But it's usually just basically saying, I don't like it right now, maybe, who knows, or it's not for me, but it could be for you. So let me give you an example. In the UK, we have a food called Marmite, and it's kind of brown and it looks a little bit like chocolate, and we spread it on toast, but it tastes nothing like chocolate. It is incredibly salty. The advertising campaign for Marmite is you either love it or hate it. In other words, it's very split. So you might say it's a bit of an acquired taste. Marmite is a bit of an acquired taste. In other words, it's not for everyone, but some people might like it. We often use this quite humorously, especially about food, art, or people. So, yeah, that painting, yeah, it's a bit of an acquired taste, isn't it? In other words, I don't like it, but I understand that other people may. Or, yeah, have you met Tony? He's a bit of an acquired taste. In other words, I may find him a little bit annoying, or some people may find him annoying, but some people may like him. Obviously, don't say this directly to somebody and say, you're a bit of an acquired taste, because that can actually be really offensive, but it's used more humorously. Obviously, if somebody, if it's in the spirit of banter, you could get away with it, but don't say it too seriously. And going back to that idea of something you didn't like at first, but might appreciate later, I'm going to give you a bonus expression. It grows on you. It grows on you basically means, yeah, it's a bit weird at first, but it gets better with time. So, yeah, I didn't like the food at first, but it grows on you. Or that painting, it was a bit weird when my wife bought it, but yeah, it grows on you. It probably means that you're still not entirely in love with it, but yeah, it's not as bad as it once was. Each to their own is a polite way of saying, I wouldn't do that, but you can if you want. So, for example, if somebody's wearing socks with sandals, I might say, well, each to their own. In other words, I wouldn't wear socks with sandals, but you can if you want. It's a safe phrase for disagreement, and it is sort of wrapped in tolerance. It's saying, I'm tolerating this behavior, but I don't necessarily think it's right. So it might carry a certain element of judgment, but not to the point where I'm going to sort of back away. Maybe, for example, well, my wife loves swimming in the sea, and she might go swimming in November, and I might say to her, swimming in the sea in this weather, each to their own. In other words, I think she's a bit crazy, but that's up to her. It's not for me, though. She's just let me know that she wouldn't do that at this time of year. She's sitting right here. Number 7, it's a bloody nightmare. This is incredibly British. It is a ridiculous way of talking about a minor inconvenience and making it far more dramatic. Now, minor inconveniences are something that you can instantly relate to. If somebody talks about something that is pretty annoying but not a major problem, then you're instantly going to go, "Oh, yeah, tell me about it," which is another way of saying, "Yes, I agree." There's another bonus British phrase. Tell me about it means, "Yes, I agree." It doesn't mean explain more information to me. There are so many bonuses. I could have done a second lesson. But "it's a bloody nightmare" is often used for basically playing up and really kind of exaggerating a minor inconvenience. There are some temporary traffic lights at the end of our road. What a bloody nightmare. Now, everybody's going to be annoyed by temporary traffic lights, but to be honest, they're not the worst thing that could possibly happen. You could probably drive the other way, and at worst, you're going to be delayed by about 5 minutes. Now, interestingly, when something is serious in the UK, we often downplay it, we bring it down. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on. We don't like to exaggerate serious situations, but minor problems, something that instantly people can get on board with. Yeah, absolutely. "Oh, it's a bloody nightmare." And that word bloody is also very British. It is an instant, it strengthens it. Bloody nightmare is stronger than just "it's a nightmare." We use it to strengthen a lot of different words, both positive and negative. It's bloody awful or it's bloody amazing. So bloody basically is an intensifier, and it's a word that can instantly help you connect. I thought I'd throw this one in as a bonus. Other words would be cheers, which means thanks, mate, which literally means friends, but we also use it to talk about everyone in a friendly way. So you go to the shop and you say, "Cheers, mate," even though you don't know them and you're not your friend. And also another word that will really help you connect is all right. All right in British English means hello. All right? The correct response is all right. All right? All right. There's a few bonus words as well. Number 8 on this list is "you've got to hand it to them." This is giving reluctant praise or credit. So when you don't really want to praise them, but you feel that you have to. So you're kind of saying, well, you've got to hand it to them. So for example, a company, you may find their marketing a bit annoying, but it really works. So you may say, their marketing's really annoying, but you've got to hand it to them. It works. This, on a cultural note, is kind of complimenting through fairness, not really enthusiasm. Do let me know which of these expressions were new for you and which ones you're going to add, which ones you love. I hope you say, "I'll give it a go." "I'll give it a go" is the next phrase on this list. It basically means "I'll try," but with humble realism, not fake confidence. Maybe you'll say, "I'll tell Roy which expression is my favourite. I'll give it a go." For me, I've never been skiing. If somebody said, "Oh, have you ever tried skiing?" No, but I'll give it a go. In other words, I'll try it. I don't know if I'm going to be any good at it, but I will try it. It's a mixture of modesty and curiosity, and it creates this sort of instant social likability. You're not bragging that, "Yeah, I'm going to be amazing at it." You're kind of saying, "I'll probably be terrible, but yeah, I'll give it a go." And in fact, that could be an entire expression you can use as well. My wife wanted to take up dancing lessons the other day, and I said, "Yeah, I'll probably be terrible, but I'll give it a go." Seriously, it's like I've got 2 left feet, which is another expression which means I can't dance. I've got 2 left feet. A faff talks about something unnecessarily complicated or inconvenient. Changing that form online is such a faff. Or, "Oh my goodness, I need to change trains. It's a bit of a faff." So we often use a faff with words like "such a faff" or "a bit of a faff." A faff is faff is a uniquely British word, and it's got this whole mood of mild frustration contained within it. Like, "Oh, what a faff." You can feel the frustration. "As you do" is a tongue-in-cheek comment that we use after describing something we believe is slightly absurd, and it's basically highlighting that personally, we think it's a bit ridiculous what somebody has done. So, for example, "he went for a swim in the freezing sea at 6 a.m, as you do," or "he just decided to book a last-minute holiday and left, as you do." This is classic dry humour. It's bonding through irony, and it's kind of saying, I think what this person did is absolutely ridiculous, don't you? It's not what we'd expect. "Could do with" is a soft way to express a need or desire, and it can also be used to say that something could be improved in some way, in our opinion. So, for example, "Oh, I could do with a nap." This is something that I quite commonly say. I could do with a nap. This is just a classic British way of saying "I need," and it's kind of downplaying. I could do with a nap rather than "I need to sleep," which I think I actually do. If we're talking about something, for example, cooking, you might go, yeah, this is good, but it could do with a bit of salt. In other words, it needs a bit of salt. Or if somebody asks me, are you okay? Yeah, I could do with some food though. In other words, I think I need some food. It's just a really British way to say, I need, or something needs. We talked earlier on about it's a bloody nightmare, using it when we're talking about something not too serious and kind of exaggerating it for comedic effect. But the opposite, when something is serious, we usually downplay it, and we often say it's not ideal. It's not ideal is a polite way to say something is bad, very bad, absolutely terrible, but without sounding too negative. So my flight's been delayed for 5 hours. I mean, it's not ideal, is it? In other words, that is really, really a major inconvenience if your flight has been delayed for 5 hours. So remember, temporary traffic lights, minor inconvenience, it's a bloody nightmare, something really serious, it's not ideal. Think of it this way. Oh, it's raining again, it's a bloody nightmare, and the car's on fire. Well, that's not ideal. Think about which one is more serious in that conversation. Remember on a cultural note that understatement equals emotional intelligence in British culture. That went down a treat means that something was really well received or enjoyed. So maybe I'm going to cook for you, I make you a nice lasagna, and everybody enjoys it, hopefully, and I say, oh, that lasagna went down a treat. We often use it to praise somebody else's efforts. So your lasagna went down a treat, or that party went down a treat. It's effortless praise, sincere, but not too over the top. Bit of a pickle is something that I said pretty recently to a dear friend of mine. It's a bit of a pickle talks about a tricky or awkward situation. I'm in a bit of a pickle. I'm in a bit of a pickle. I've double booked myself and now I've got 2 meetings at the same time. I don't know what to do. It's on a cultural note. It's used for mild drama, softened by humour. It keeps tension light. But again, remember that British people often downplay the serious things. So maybe a bit of a pickle could be used to talk about something serious. Oh, my car's on fire. Now I'm in a bit of a pickle. I'm just going to check the car's okay. Yep, it's fine. I'll sort it out means I'll fix this. It's calm reassurance with quiet confidence. Don't worry, I'll sort it out. I'll sort it out is very British and it's the equivalent of I've got this, which we also use. It's competence without ego. Don't worry, I'll sort it out. Do remember there is a free PDF that you can download to learn even more about this lesson. But thank you very much for watching. Please do let me know your favourite expressions in the comments below. Which ones were really, really cool for you? But from me today, I just want to say thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.